My mom says you're my dad. Boy's words leave Millionaire speechless. The secret he uncovers. Arthur Sterling was a man who epitomized success. He resided in a sprawling penthouse apartment overlooking the lush expanse of Central Park, a testament to his wealth and influence. His wardrobe consisted of meticulously tailored suits, each costing more than most people's vehicles, and his name held significant weight in every boardroom across Manhattan. He was a self-made titan of industry, a man who had ascended from a modest upbringing to the pinnacle of wealth and power through sheer determination and calculated ambition. His days were a meticulously orchestrated symphony of high-powered meetings, strategic negotiations, and calculated risks, while his nights were spent indulging in the finer things in life. The clinking of crystal champagne flutes a constant soundtrack to his opulent lifestyle. However, beneath the polished veneer of success and the carefully cultivated image of a ruthless businessman, Arthur harbored a deep-seated loneliness, a consequence of his relentless pursuit of wealth and power. He carried the weight of a childhood marred by his father's abandonment and his mother's tireless struggle to make ends meet. He had escaped that life, built an empire brick by brick, and in doing so had become emotionally detached, a master of compartmentalization. He valued control above all else, meticulously curating his public image and keeping his emotions tightly locked away, fearing that any display of vulnerability would be perceived as weakness in the cutthroat world he inhabited. One crisp autumn afternoon, as Arthur emerged from his towering office building, a whirlwind of chaos erupted on the usually pristine streets of Manhattan. A young boy, no older than 10, with a mop of unruly brown hair and clothes that spoke of hardship and neglect, darted through the throngs of people, his voice cutting through the city's incessant hum like a siren. "Mr. Sterling! Mr. Sterling!" the boy shouted, his voice raw with desperation and a hint of childish hope. "My mom said you're my dad." The words struck Arthur like a lightning bolt, freezing him in his tracks. His carefully constructed world, the one he had built with such meticulous precision, tilted precariously on its axis. He scanned the crowd, his eyes finally landing on a woman standing hesitantly across the street. Her face, etched with years of hardship and weathered by life's relentless storms, was a mirror to his own, a poignant reflection of a past he had desperately tried to bury. It was Mary, his childhood sweetheart, the girl he had loved with the fierce intensity of youth, the one he had abandoned when the siren call of ambition had taken hold of his heart. Time seemed to grind to a halt. The bustling city, with its cacophony of sounds and relentless energy, faded into a blurry backdrop as a torrent of memories flooded his mind. Stolen kisses under the bleachers after school, whispered promises of forever under the starry night sky, and the heart-wrenching goodbye letter he had left behind. A cowardly escape from a life he deemed unworthy of his ambitions. He had never looked back, never dared to consider the consequences of his choices, the lives he might have impacted with his relentless pursuit of success. Now, the past had come crashing into his present, embodied in the boy with Mary's eyes, a living, breathing testament to his long-forgotten past. The boy, oblivious to the internal turmoil he had unleashed in the imposing man before him, weaved his way through the stunned onlookers, his small frame navigating the sea of legs with surprising agility. He stopped in front of Arthur, his gaze fixed on the man's face, his eyes filled with a mixture of hope and trepidation, a yearning for recognition and a fear of rejection. "My name is Leo," the boy said, his voice barely above a whisper. The bravado he had displayed moments earlier replaced by a vulnerability that tugged at Arthur's heartstrings. "Mom said, she said you might want to know me." Arthur stared at Leo, his mind reeling from the implications of this unexpected encounter. He saw Mary's spirit in the boy's defiant chin, the same stubborn determination that had drawn him to her all those years ago. He saw his own reflection in the boy's questioning eyes, a mirror reflecting a part of himself he had long denied. He felt a surge of emotions he hadn't experienced in decades. Shock, disbelief, a flicker of fear, and a nascent sense of responsibility, a paternal instinct he had never acknowledged. This boy, this unexpected consequence of a long-forgotten past, threatened to dismantle the life he had so carefully constructed, the life he had deemed perfect. His initial reaction was denial, the first line of defense against the intrusion of this unwelcome reality. It was a mistake, a misunderstanding, a desperate ploy for financial assistance. Mary was probably just seeking a piece of his fortune, using their shared past as leverage. He had encountered such tactics before, women seeking to capitalize on his wealth and status. But as he looked at Leo, at the innocence in his eyes, the carefully constructed wall of denial began to crumble. He couldn't dismiss this boy as just another gold digger, another opportunist seeking to exploit his wealth. There was a connection, an undeniable resemblance that went beyond mere coincidence. The shape of his face, the curve of his smile, the way his eyes crinkled when he spoke, it was like looking at a younger version of himself. The crowd, sensing the drama unfolding before them, had formed a circle around Arthur and Leo, their whispers creating a buzzing undercurrent to the already tense atmosphere. Arthur, accustomed to being in control, to commanding attention in boardrooms and social gatherings, felt exposed, vulnerable. He hated this feeling, this loss of command over his carefully orchestrated life. He felt like an actor on a stage, his every move scrutinized by an unseen audience. He forced himself to speak, his voice a strained whisper, betraying the turmoil raging within him. I need some time to process this. This is a lot to take in. Leo's face fell, the hope in his eyes dimming like a dying ember. Okay, he mumbled, kicking at the pavement with his worn-out sneakers, a picture of dejection. Arthur turned to Mary, who had remained frozen across the street, a silent observer to the unfolding scene. He gestured for her to follow him, and they retreated to the sanctuary of his limousine, leaving the curious onlookers behind, their whispers fading into the background noise of the city. Inside the luxurious vehicle, the silence was deafening. Arthur stared out the window, the city lights blurring into streaks of color as the car glided through the streets. He could feel Mary's gaze on him, heavy with unspoken words and years of regret, a silent accusation that weighed heavily on his conscience. Finally, she spoke, her voice laced with a weariness that mirrored his own, a weariness born from years of struggle and hardship. "He's your son, Arthur." He didn't need confirmation. He knew. But the words, spoken aloud, shattered the last vestiges of denial, the last barrier he had erected against the truth. He was a father who had been absent for 10 years, a father who had a son living on the streets while he indulged in a life of unimaginable luxury. The realization hit him with the force of a physical blow, leaving him breathless and disoriented. The ride to Arthur's penthouse was a blur of conflicting emotions and revelations. Mary, her voice hesitant at first, gradually opened up, sharing the story of Leo's life, her struggles as a single mother, the years she had spent trying to shield her son from the harsh realities of their situation, the constant fear of eviction, the gnawing hunger, the lack of opportunities. She spoke of Leo's love for drawing, his dream of becoming an architect, a dream that seemed impossibly distant given their circumstances, a cruel reminder of the life Arthur could have provided. As he listened, a sense of shame washed over him, a tidal wave of guilt and regret. He had spent years chasing success, accumulating wealth, building an empire, while his own son had been deprived of the basic necessities, the love and support every child deserves. He had been so focused on building his legacy, on proving his worth to the world, that he had failed to see the human cost, the lives he had impacted with his choices, the people he had left behind in his relentless pursuit of ambition. When they arrived at his penthouse apartment, the opulence of his surroundings felt jarring, a stark contrast to the poverty he had just witnessed. He led Mary and Leo into the living room, the vast space filled with expensive art, designer furniture, and floor-to-ceiling windows offering breathtaking views of the city. Leo's eyes widened as he took in the luxurious surroundings, a world away from the cramped, dingy apartment he shared with his mother. Arthur watched as Leo cautiously explored the room, his fingers tracing the smooth surface of a marble sculpture, his eyes wide with wonder and a hint of apprehension. He saw a mixture of awe and insecurity in the boy's eyes, a reflection of his own feelings. He felt like a stranger in his own home, an imposter in this life of wealth and privilege, a life that suddenly seemed hollow and meaningless. He realized that his success, his carefully constructed identity, meant nothing in the face of this newfound reality. He had achieved everything he thought he wanted, everything he had been taught to strive for, but in the process, he had lost something far more valuable: connection, family, love. The very things he had dismissed as weaknesses, as distractions from his relentless pursuit of success, were now staring him in the face, embodied in the boy who called him Dad. The revelation of Leo's existence shattered the illusion of control he had so carefully maintained. He was no longer just Arthur Sterling, the millionaire businessman, the shrewd investor, the man who could command a room with a single glance. He was also Arthur Sterling, the father, a role he had no idea how to fulfill, a responsibility he had never considered. He looked at Leo, at the boy who carried his genes, his legacy, a living, breathing extension of himself. He saw a spark of potential, a glimmer of hope amidst the hardship, a resilience that mirrored his own. And in that moment, a decision began to form in his mind, a decision that would irrevocably change the course of his life and the lives of those around him. Arthur, driven by a mixture of guilt, a burgeoning sense of responsibility, and a newfound yearning for connection, decided to bring Leo into his life. He knew it wouldn't be easy. He was a stranger to his son, his world a far cry from the one Leo knew. He was a man of routine and order, of schedules and appointments, while Leo was a child of spontaneity, of laughter and tears, of scraped knees and boundless energy. But he was determined to make amends, to give Leo the opportunities he had been denied, to be the father he had never had. He started slowly, with tentative outings to museums and parks, awkward dinners in his lavish dining room where the clinking of silverware seemed to amplify the silence between them. He bought Leo new clothes, toys he had only dreamed of, books that opened up new worlds. Leo, initially wary, gradually warmed up to Arthur, drawn to his quiet strength, his understated kindness, and the new world opening up before him, a world of possibilities and wonder. Mary, observing from a distance, saw the changes in her son, the spark of joy in his eyes, the newfound confidence in his stride, and a flicker of hope rekindled in her own heart, a hope she had long suppressed. But Arthur's decision wasn't without consequences. His carefully curated life, the one he had built with such meticulous precision, began to unravel. His long hours at the office, the endless meetings and negotiations, were replaced with school pickups, father-son outings, and bedtime stories. His pristine apartment, once a sanctuary of order and control, was invaded by Legos, drawings, and the remnants of half-finished science projects. The quiet evenings, once spent reviewing financial reports and strategizing his next business move, were now filled with the sounds of laughter, playful arguments, and the comforting rhythm of bedtime routines. His business partners, accustomed to his unwavering focus and relentless drive, raised eyebrows at his shifting priorities. Rumors spread through the social circles he frequented, whispers of a scandalous past and an illegitimate child, a stain on his carefully crafted image. The gossip columns had a field day, painting him as a fallen hero, a man succumbing to the temptations of the flesh. His carefully crafted image, the one he had worked so hard to build, began to crack under the scrutiny, the whispers threatening to undermine his authority, his power. He faced criticism from unexpected quarters. His own mother, a woman who had known hardship and sacrifice, who had instilled in him the importance of ambition and self-reliance, questioned his decision. "You're bringing that woman and her child into your life, Arthur?" she had asked, her voice laced with disapproval, her eyes filled with a mixture of concern and disdain. "After all these years? She'll only drag you down, distract you from your goals." But Arthur was undeterred. He had spent his life seeking validation from others, striving to prove his worth, to escape the shadow of his past. But with Leo, he felt a different kind of fulfillment, a sense of purpose that transcended material success, a connection that went beyond the pursuit of wealth and power. He enrolled Leo in a prestigious private school, a place where he could thrive, where his talents could be nurtured, where he could have the opportunities he deserved. He hired tutors to help him catch up, to bridge the gap in his education, to unlock his potential. He showered him with the kind of attention and affection he had never received, the kind of love he had always craved. He saw Leo blossom under his care, his confidence growing, his laughter filling the once silent rooms of his apartment, his presence bringing a warmth and vibrancy that had been sorely lacking. But the changes in Arthur's life weren't limited to his personal sphere. He found himself questioning his values, his relentless pursuit of wealth and power, the very foundation upon which he had built his empire. He started to see the world through Leo's eyes, with a newfound appreciation for the simple things: a shared meal, a walk in the park, a bedtime story, the joy of creating something beautiful, the wonder of discovery. He began to reevaluate his business decisions, prioritizing ethical practices over profit margins, sustainability over short-term gains. He invested in community projects, donated to charities, and used his influence to advocate for social change, for a more equitable world. He was no longer just a businessman. He was a man with a conscience, a man driven by a desire to make a difference, to leave a positive mark on the world. While Arthur was navigating the complexities of fatherhood and redefining his identity, Mary was undergoing her own transformation, a rebirth of sorts. She had spent years struggling, working multiple jobs to provide for Leo, her dreams and aspirations buried under the weight of responsibility, the constant pressure of survival. She had become a shadow of her former self, her spirit dimmed by the relentless hardships she had endured. Arthur's reemergence in her life brought a whirlwind of emotions. Resentment for his abandonment, the years of struggle she had faced alone, the missed opportunities, the stolen dreams. Gratitude for his support, for the financial stability he provided, for the chance to give Leo a better life, and a rekindling of the love she had never quite forgotten, the embers of their youthful romance reignited by his presence. She watched as Arthur, the boy she had known, the ambitious young man who had left her behind, transformed into a man she barely recognized. He was no longer the driven, ruthless businessman, the man who valued success above all else. He was a caring father, a man who seemed genuinely committed to making amends, to being a part of their lives. With Arthur's financial support, Mary was able to quit her exhausting jobs, the endless cycle of waitressing, cleaning, and caring for others, and focus on her own well-being, her own aspirations. She enrolled in a community college, pursuing a long-held dream of becoming a nurse, a desire to heal, to care for others, a calling she had suppressed for years. She rediscovered her passion for learning, her mind awakening after years of dormancy, her thirst for knowledge reignited. She also found herself drawn back into Arthur's world, attending social events and charity galas by his side, a world she had once only glimpsed from afar. She felt a sense of belonging she had never experienced before, a sense of acceptance and respect, a feeling of being valued for who she was, not for what she could provide. But she also felt a lingering insecurity, a fear that she didn't truly belong in this world of wealth and privilege, a world where she felt like an outsider, an imposter. She struggled with her feelings for Arthur, the man who had broken her heart years ago, the man who had abandoned her when she needed him most. She saw the changes in him, the genuine remorse and desire to make amends, the love he showered on Leo, the kindness he extended to her. But she also remembered the pain of his abandonment, the years of struggle she had endured alone, the weight of responsibility she had carried on her shoulders. As Arthur and Leo grew closer, their bond deepening with each passing day, Mary found herself navigating a complex web of emotions: love, resentment, hope, and fear. She yearned for a second chance at happiness, for a family she had always dreamed of. But she was also afraid of being hurt again, of having her heart broken once more. The bond between Arthur and Leo deepened with each passing day, their connection growing stronger with every shared experience, every conversation, every moment of laughter and vulnerability. They explored the city together, discovering hidden corners, parks tucked away amidst the towering skyscrapers, museums filled with wonders from around the world, sharing new experiences that broadened Leo's horizons and reawakened Arthur's sense of childlike wonder. Arthur, who had always valued solitude, who had found comfort in the quiet confines of his office or his meticulously organized apartment, found himself enjoying Leo's company, his infectious laughter, his endless curiosity, his boundless energy. He learned about Leo's passion for drawing, his fascination with buildings and structures, the way his eyes lit up when he talked about skyscrapers and bridges, the intricate sketches he filled his notebooks with. He nurtured that passion, taking him to architectural exhibitions, buying him books on design, and encouraging him to sketch the world around him, to capture the beauty and complexity of the urban landscape. He even arranged for Leo to meet with a renowned architect, a meeting that left the boy starry-eyed and even more determined to pursue his dreams. He also discovered a playful side to himself he had long forgotten, a side he had suppressed in his relentless pursuit of success. He built pillow forts with Leo, transforming his pristine living room into a chaotic landscape of blankets and cushions. He played board games, his competitive spirit reawakened by Leo's fierce determination to win. He even attempted to fly a kite in Central Park, his clumsy efforts eliciting laughter from Leo and amused glances from passers-by, a reminder that it was okay to let go, to be silly, to embrace the joy of the moment. But their relationship wasn't without its challenges. Arthur, accustomed to control, to having things his way, struggled with Leo's impulsiveness, his occasional defiance, his tendency to test boundaries. He had to learn to be patient, to listen, to understand the world from a child's perspective, to see the world through Leo's eyes. He had to learn to let go of his need for perfection, to accept that mistakes were a part of learning, that growth came from setbacks and challenges. Leo, in turn, had to adjust to having a father in his life, a father who was both loving and demanding, a father who set high expectations but also offered unwavering support. He had to learn to trust, to open up, to share his fears and dreams, to navigate the complexities of a relationship that had been absent for most of his life. He had to learn to accept discipline, to understand that boundaries were a form of love, that rules were there to protect him, to guide him. Despite the challenges, their bond grew stronger, their connection deepening with every hurdle they overcame, every obstacle they faced together. Arthur found himself looking forward to coming home each day, to the sound of Leo's voice, the warmth of his embrace, the feeling of belonging, of being needed. He realized that Leo had filled a void in his life he hadn't even known existed, a void that had been masked by his pursuit of success, a longing for connection he had suppressed for years. As for Mary, she and Arthur slowly rebuilt their relationship, navigating the remnants of their past, the hurt and resentment, the unspoken words, the missed opportunities. They shared meals, no longer the awkward silences of their first encounters, but conversations filled with laughter and shared memories, stories of Leo's childhood, dreams for the future. They attended events together, Mary no longer feeling like an outsider, but a partner, a confidant. They even ventured on a weekend trip to the beach, a nostalgic return to a place where they had shared happy memories as teenagers, a place where they could rediscover each other, where the ghosts of the past could be laid to rest. There were moments of tension, echoes of past hurts and resentments, moments when the pain of their history resurfaced, threatening to derail their fragile progress. But there were also moments of genuine connection, shared laughter, a rekindled sense of intimacy, a feeling of coming home, of finding solace in each other's company. They were both different people now, shaped by their experiences, the passage of time, the lessons they had learned. But beneath the layers of change, a spark of their old love remained, flickering with the possibility of a new beginning, a second chance at happiness. The fragile peace Arthur had built, the sense of security he had created for himself and his newfound family, was shattered one evening when a news report flashed across the television screen, its jarring headline disrupting the tranquility of their evening. It featured a familiar face, Mary's ex-husband, Jake, a man with a history of violence, a dark past that had haunted Mary for years, a man who harbored a deep-seated resentment towards her for escaping his clutches. He had been released from prison, his sentence served, and was now wanted for questioning in connection with a robbery. His return to society casting a shadow of fear over their lives. Fear gripped Arthur, a cold dread that settled in his stomach. He knew Jake's volatile nature, the danger he posed to Mary and Leo, the potential for violence that simmered beneath his surface. He immediately tightened security around his apartment, hiring extra guards, installing surveillance systems, transforming his once welcoming home into a fortress. He tried to shield Leo from the news, to maintain a sense of normalcy, but the boy, sensing the tension, the fear in his parents' eyes, grew anxious and withdrawn, his carefree laughter replaced by a quiet apprehension. One night, as a storm raged outside, mirroring the turmoil within the walls of their apartment, the unthinkable happened. Jake, fueled by rage and desperation, his face contorted with anger, his eyes burning with a dangerous intensity, breached the security measures, overpowering the guards, his determination fueled by a desire for revenge. He forced his way into Arthur's apartment, his presence a violation, a dark cloud descending upon their sanctuary. He was armed, a gun glinting menacingly in his hand, and clearly intent on harming Mary, the woman who had dared to escape his control. Arthur, alerted by the commotion, the shattering of glass, the muffled shouts, confronted Jake in the hallway, his heart pounding in his chest, his protective instincts kicking in. The two men faced off, their past grievances and present fears colliding in a volatile mix, the air thick with tension. Arthur, the man of reason and logic, found himself facing a force of pure rage, a man consumed by his demons. Jake lunged at Mary, his arm raised, the gun pointed at her, his intention clear. But Arthur intervened, shielding her with his own body, his love for her overriding his fear, his protective instincts taking over. A struggle ensued, the apartment echoing with the sounds of shattering glass, furniture overturned, angry shouts, and the heavy thud of bodies colliding. In the chaos, Jake's gun discharged, the shot ringing out like a thunderclap, the sound piercing the tense silence. Mary screamed, her voice filled with terror, her eyes wide with fear. Leo, unable to bear the sight any longer, the sounds of violence invading the sanctuary of his bedroom, rushed out of his room, his small frame trembling with fear, his eyes wide with a terror he had never known. He saw Arthur slumped on the floor, blood staining his pristine white shirt, a stark contrast to the violence that had just unfolded. Time seemed to stop. The storm outside raged on, the wind howling, the rain battering against the windows. But inside the apartment, a chilling silence descended, broken only by Mary's sobs and Leo's panicked breaths. Leo rushed to Arthur's side, his voice a desperate cry, his small hands reaching for his father, his fear palpable. "Dad, Dad, are you okay?" Arthur, his vision blurring, his body racked with pain, managed a weak smile, his voice a reassuring whisper. "I'm all right, Leo. Don't worry." But Leo knew, with a child's intuition, that something was terribly wrong. He looked at Mary, her face pale with shock, her eyes filled with a terror that mirrored his own, and then back at Arthur, his father, the man who had brought light into his life, who had shown him a world beyond his wildest dreams, now lying wounded and vulnerable, his life hanging in the balance. The arrival of the police and paramedics shattered the tense silence, their sirens wailing, their flashing lights cutting through the darkness, their presence a stark reminder of the violence that had just occurred. Jake was apprehended, his rage replaced by a sullen defeat, his eyes filled with a mixture of regret and defiance as he was led away in handcuffs. Arthur, his consciousness fading in and out, was rushed to the hospital, his life hanging in the balance, his fate uncertain. Mary and Leo followed close behind, their fear and anxiety etched on their faces, their hearts heavy with worry. Leo, clutching Arthur's hand, his small fingers intertwined with his father's, refused to leave his side, his silent tears a testament to the depth of their bond, his fear palpable in the tense silence of the ambulance. The surgery stretched on for hours, each minute an eternity for Mary and Leo as they waited in the sterile hospital waiting room, their hopes and fears intertwined. their lives suspended in a state of uncertainty. The clock ticked by, each tick a reminder of the precious time slipping away, the possibility of losing Arthur looming over them like a dark cloud. Finally, the surgeon emerged, his face etched with fatigue, his scrubs stained with blood, but his voice carrying a note of cautious optimism. Arthur had survived, but the bullet had come close to his heart, a near-fatal wound that had tested the limits of his resilience. He would need time to recover, both physically and emotionally, the scars of the incident running deep. The following weeks were a blur of hospital visits, whispered conversations, and shared anxieties. Leo, haunted by the image of his father lying wounded, his white shirt stained crimson, struggled to sleep, his nightmares filled with the echoes of the gunshot, the sight of Jake's enraged face, the fear that his father would be taken away from him. Mary, torn between relief and guilt, blamed herself for the incident. If she hadn't been in Arthur's life, if he hadn't opened his heart and his home to her and Leo, he wouldn't have been in danger. She considered leaving, disappearing from their lives, believing it was the only way to keep them safe, to protect them from the shadows of her past. She wrestled with the idea, the thought of leaving Arthur and Leo tearing at her heart, but the fear for their safety outweighing her own desires. But Arthur, sensing her turmoil, the guilt eating away at her, reassured her that she was not to blame. He had made his choices, he had opened his heart and his home to them, and he would face the consequences. He needed her, her strength, her love, her presence in his life. And more importantly, Leo needed her unwavering support, her unconditional love, her constant presence. He also realized that this incident had exposed the fragility of his carefully constructed world, the illusion of safety he had created for himself. He had built a fortress of wealth and security, a world of privilege and protection, but it had proven to be no match for the destructive forces of the past, the darkness that lurked in the shadows, the unpredictable nature of human behavior. He decided to make a radical change, a change that would upend his life, his carefully crafted image, his entire world. He sold his penthouse, the symbol of his material success, the embodiment of his ambition, and bought a house in a quiet suburb, a place where Leo could have a normal childhood, away from the dangers of the city, the constant reminders of his past. He stepped down from his high-powered position, delegating his responsibilities, relinquishing control, trusting his carefully chosen team to carry on his legacy. He focused on his recovery, his physical wounds healing slowly, his emotional scars deeper and more persistent. He focused on his family, on being present for Leo, on supporting Mary, on building a life that was grounded in love and connection, not ambition and success. He traded board meetings for family dinners, his days filled with the laughter of his son, the warmth of Mary's smile, the simple joys of everyday life. He found a peace he had never known, a contentment that had eluded him in his pursuit of wealth and power. The move to the suburbs marked a turning point in Arthur's life, a shift in perspective, a redefinition of his values. He embraced a simpler existence, trading his tailored suits for jeans and t-shirts, his luxury car for a minivan, his penthouse view for a backyard filled with the sounds of children playing. He learned to mow the lawn, the smell of freshly cut grass a welcome change from the exhaust fumes of the city. He fixed leaky faucets, the satisfaction of a job well done replacing the thrill of a successful business deal. He attended PTA meetings, listening to the concerns of other parents, sharing his own experiences, finding common ground in the shared journey of parenthood. He discovered a sense of community he had never experienced in the city, a sense of belonging, of shared values, of mutual support. He befriended his neighbors, sharing barbecues and backyard games, their laughter filling the air, their children forming their own bonds. He joined a local book club, discussing literature and ideas, his mind expanding beyond the confines of the business world. He even volunteered at the community center, helping with after-school programs, mentoring young people, sharing his experiences, his wisdom, his newfound perspective on life. He found joy in the ordinary, in the rhythm of daily life, the simple pleasures that had eluded him in his pursuit of success. He woke up to the sound of birdsong, not the cacophony of car horns and city sirens. He spent his evenings playing board games with Leo, their laughter echoing through the house, their competitive spirit bringing a playful energy to their relationship. He went for walks with Mary, hand in hand, their conversations filled with shared dreams, their silences comfortable and companionable. He also rediscovered his passion for art, a passion he had suppressed in his pursuit of wealth, a part of himself he had buried deep within. He set up a studio in the garage, a space filled with canvases, paints, and brushes, a sanctuary where he could express the emotions he had kept bottled up for so long. He spent hours painting, his brushstrokes capturing the beauty of the world around him, the joy of his newfound family, the peace he had found within himself. He encouraged Leo's artistic talents, enrolling him in art classes, providing him with the tools and resources to nurture his creativity. He took him on sketching trips to the nearby park, their sketchbooks filled with their interpretations of the natural world, their shared passion creating a deeper connection between them. He saw a spark of his own younger self in Leo, a reminder of the dreams he had once held, the passions he had suppressed, the path he could have taken. He also nurtured his relationship with Mary, their bond deepening with shared experiences, a newfound understanding, a mutual respect that had been absent in their youth. They cooked together, experimenting with new recipes, their kitchen filled with the aromas of their culinary creations. They went for walks, exploring the neighborhood, their conversations filled with laughter and shared dreams, their silences comfortable and companionable. They talked late into the night, their conversations filled with honesty and vulnerability, their past hurts acknowledged, their future filled with hope. He realized that he had been chasing the wrong kind of success, a success defined by external measures, by wealth and power, by the approval of others. True success wasn't measured in material possessions or social status, but in the quality of his relationships, in the love he shared with his family, in the positive impact he had on the world around him. The incident with Jake had been a catalyst for change, a wake-up call that had forced Arthur to confront his past, his choices, the life he had built for himself. It had forced him to reevaluate his priorities, to redefine his values, to discover the true meaning of success, of happiness, of fulfillment. He had learned that true strength wasn't about control or dominance, but about vulnerability and compassion, about the courage to open his heart, to let go of his fear, to embrace the messiness of life. He had learned to let go of his need for perfection, to accept the imperfections of life, the flaws and vulnerabilities that made him human. He had learned to embrace the messiness of human relationships, the ups and downs, the joys and sorrows, the challenges and triumphs that came with loving and being loved. He had learned to forgive, both himself and others, to let go of the past hurts, the resentments that had weighed him down, the guilt that had haunted him. He had learned to find grace in the face of adversity, to see the lessons in his mistakes, the opportunities for growth in his challenges. He had also learned the true meaning of family, a meaning that went beyond blood ties and shared genes. It wasn't about obligation or duty, but about love, support, and a shared commitment to each other's well-being. It was about creating a safe haven, a place where everyone felt loved and accepted, where they could be themselves, where they could grow and thrive. He looked at Leo, now a thriving teenager, his eyes filled with laughter, his heart filled with dreams, his spirit soaring. He saw the boy he had almost lost, the son he had almost never known, the boy who had brought light and laughter into his life. And he felt a surge of gratitude for the second chance he had been given, the opportunity to be a father, to guide and support this amazing young man. He looked at Mary, her face radiant with happiness, her spirit renewed, her laughter filling the house with warmth and joy. He saw the woman he had loved, the woman he had hurt, the woman who had taught him the true meaning of forgiveness, of resilience, of unconditional love. And he felt a love for her that was deeper and more profound than anything he had ever experienced. A love that had been tested by time and circumstance. A love that had emerged stronger and more resilient. He realized that his journey had come full circle. He had started his life with nothing, driven by a desire to escape his past, to prove his worth, to achieve success. He had achieved wealth and power, But in the process, he had lost himself, his connection to others, his sense of purpose. Now he had found his way back, not to the poverty of his childhood, but to a richer, more meaningful existence. He had found his true wealth in the love of his family, in the beauty of the world around him, in the peace he had found within himself. Arthur Sterling, the once formidable businessman, the man who had valued control and success above all else, had been transformed by the love of a child, the unwavering love of a woman he had thought he had lost. He had learned that true success wasn't about material wealth or social status, but about the quality of his relationships, the love he shared with his family, the positive impact he had on the world around him. He had discovered that vulnerability wasn't a weakness, but a strength that allowed him to connect with others on a deeper level, to experience the full spectrum of human emotions, to find joy in the simple things, to appreciate the beauty of the world around him. He had learned to let go of his fear, to embrace the uncertainty of life, to trust in the power of love and connection. He had learned that forgiveness was a gift, both to himself and to others, a gift that allowed him to let go of the past, to embrace the present, to build a future filled with hope and love. He had learned to forgive himself for his past mistakes, to let go of the guilt and regret that had haunted him for years. He had learned to forgive Mary for the pain he had caused her, for the years of struggle she had endured. And in doing so, he had found a freedom he had never known, a lightness of being that had eluded him in his pursuit of success. The boy on Bleecker Street had not only changed Arthur's life, he had saved it. He had reminded him of the things that truly mattered, the things that money couldn't buy: love, family, and the beauty of a life lived with purpose and compassion. He had shown him that true wealth wasn't measured in possessions or achievements, but in the richness of his relationships, the depth of his connections, the love he shared with those around him. Arthur's story is a testament to the transformative power of love, the enduring strength of family, and the importance of living a life guided by compassion and purpose. It is a reminder that true success lies not in the pursuit of wealth and power, but in the richness of our relationships, the depth of our connections, and the positive impact we have on the world around us. It is a story of redemption, of second chances, of the enduring power of the human spirit to heal and grow, to find love and happiness even in the most unexpected circumstances.